another masterclass hosted by the IAPC&M. I'm your host, Elena Nedeva, APC, and I'm delighted to be here with you. Today, June 9th, in celebration of World Accreditation Day, we're hosting 4 complimentary masterclasses. As a reminder, this masterclass is recorded. So to ensure quality of the recording, please mute your microphones, but keep your videos on. We love to interact. The session today is going to be very interactive, so please feel free to unmute yourselves when you would like to ask a question or put it in the chat. I will read it out loud for everyone. You're encouraged to fill in your CPD logs with takeaways and ideas. And in case you don't have a template, I will insert the link to a copy of the IAPC&Ms, which you're very welcome to use. Please grab your notepads, sit back, listen, and enjoy. Today with us is Lisa McMurtry, who will share her philosophy for unlocking goal attainment, coaching through the polyvagal lens. Lisa is a globally recognized and accredited master life coach with the IAPC&M, mentor and trainer who specializes in the law of attraction, success mindset, and business strategy support for entrepreneurs across the world, helping people to connect to the universe and live a life of abundance on their terms. Law of attraction literally changed Lisa's life, which has led her to the huge success she sees today within business and life. Lisa is now using her knowledge and power to create huge success in helping female entrepreneurs build their business, as well as transform their lives by using the principles of the law of attraction, creating abundant and positive mindsets, and other universal strategies. So, Lisa also now help others to become confident and competent life coaches and energy healers and make money from it with her accredited advanced life coaching training programs. So, without further ado, over to you, Lisa. We look forward to hearing about your masterclass.
Thank you very much. So actually, in recognition for World Accreditation Day, we actually have Ian Norton on here, who is just going through his accreditation with the IAPC&M for fellow coach. So huge kudos and congratulations to Ian. I think Ian can kind of verify everything you've said is true. It's what I do. I work very closely in many different ways with Ian. We have Ian coming in next week. We have a retreat day, and Ian's coming in to do a shamanic confidence session. So we're so looking forward to that. Okay, so let me share the slides. Just checking. Can everybody hear? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, yeah. I can hear you from here.
Yes, thank you. And you can see the slides?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Okay, so this is an introduction to build awareness. I think it's the coaching industry is changing. More and more people are recognizing the importance and the power of coaching and availing of coaching support in supporting ourselves in reaching our full potential, in going for those goals that we want to achieve. And because the industry is growing kind of exponentially and more people are becoming aware of they have choices in their life, we're starting to see a shift, a transition within the coaching industry. And this is why it's important to begin to understand coaching from a somatic principle, from a nervous system understanding, because we're starting to reach a much wider audience, and what's coming with that is nervous system work. So this session is an introduction and an awareness session for you to begin to look at goal setting from a different perspective, and that is through the lens of the polyvagal lens. So it's about understanding goal setting from a nervous system perspective. So I am Lisa McMurtry. I've been beautifully introduced there, and I use a four key formula, which I do work strategically. I like to understand strategically where we're going. I also understand that the mindset will help us or hinder us. But more than that, is the energy. It doesn't matter how much we say to ourselves on a mindset level, I can do this, I can achieve this, I'm going to make this happen. Doesn't matter how many goals we set ourselves. If the nervous system is saying no, it will be that which will drive the car. So I work more and more now on a nervous system level, which then has an impact on the mindset, which then has an impact on the strategy and sees people moving forwards. And I bring this together within our company, Becoming 360. So this is my business partner, Jo Cantle. We work together very closely. And yes, we do help coaches become confident and competent, and we do help coaches make money from it. And actually, those coaches who we work with, not all of them, but most of them tend to have come from our own training programs. So we are accredited training providers with the IAPC&M. And some of them have maybe trained somewhere else, and then they've found Jo and I, and we're aligned energetically, and they're like, we need them to help us now achieve our business goals. And it is because of this kind of energy, mindset, identity work that we do. The thing that stops people from achieving their goals, aka creating that successful coaching business, is the nervous system. And that's where Jo and I come in. So briefly, what you're going to get from this webinar is an awareness of the nervous system's role in goals, in goal setting, and goal pursuit, recognizing the 3 layers of stress and how they may be impacting you achieving your goals or your clients. Because you will see this all of the time. And when I show some of the kind of typical presentations, you might see them in yourself, you might see them in those who you support. And also understanding and appreciation that the path to success is about nervous system regulation. We can't outsmart the nervous system. And this is where affirmations are not always as useful. Affirmations are powerful. Affirmations are powerful. Journaling, goal setting is powerful if the nervous system agrees with them. If the nervous system doesn't agree with what you're saying to yourself on a positive mindset level, it is just noise. So question for you guys, okay? What is the purpose of coaching? In your world, what is the purpose of coaching? What is your understanding, the purpose of coaching? You put it in the chat. I'll keep an eye on the time as well, because I can talk about this forever. Okay, for me, it's to help people trust themselves, release blocks, and help other people to help people. That ripple effect, isn't it? As one person's helping themselves, they actually are better able to help somebody else as well. Thank you, Ian. Absolutely. No wonder we get on. Okay, so in posh words, it's about unlocking potential and facilitating personal and professional growth. Coaches help individuals to gain clarity, set meaningful goals, and then develop strategies to overcome those obstacles that is stopping somebody from going from where they are to where they want to be. And it's centered around self-awareness, motivation, accountability, and empowering people to maximize their capabilities. And John Whitmore quote, coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize that growth. So how do we do that? How do we help someone go from A, where they are, to B, where they want to be? Traditional coaching has been mindset. However, coaching is a transformational journey, and it bridges the gap between where somebody is and where somebody aspires to be. And it does include obstacles. The thing that is stopping somebody achieving that which they want is the obstacles. And we support somebody walking over the bridge, going through I call it the bear hunt if you've read the book, going through the forest, going through the river. We support somebody working through those obstacles. Now, most obstacles are internal. Most obstacles belong in the nervous system, in the mindset, in the metaprogramming. The metaprogramming in terms of our history, the events, the memories, the belief systems, and the nervous system. So as coaches, that's what we're really working on. And it's important as we grow as coaches that we start to understand more this metaprogramming and nervous system understanding to goal attainment. So goal setting is essential for growth, and it supports somebody going from A to B. Without the goal setting, we're just kind of wandering around a field. We really don't know where we're going. It's like the Cheshire Cat with Alice in Wonderland, when she says, which path shall I choose? And he says, well, where are you wanting to go? He says, well, I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter what path you choose then. Each path will lead you to a destination. But if you don't know where you want to go, then choose either. So goal setting, clarity of where we're going and how we're going to get there is important. But it's not just about planning. It's not just about motivation. It's not just about making it happen. Going into action, it's not all masculine. We have this blend of femininity that is coming through. So it's not just mindset work. We have to factor in the nervous system. So this is what leads us on to Stephen Porges, the basis of the polyvagal theory. So he explains, and there is so much research and literature now out there on the nerve, on the vagus nerve, and how on the autonomic nervous system. I'm a meditation mindful teacher, practitioner, and the more I'm learning about the nervous system, the more I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So Dr. Stephen Porges, kind of the pioneer, explains how the vagus nerve regulates the autonomic nervous system, which controls our stress and safety responses. And there are 3 key states. So lots of us have heard of the fight or flight, okay, which is the second state, the sympathetic. Most of us have heard of that. And most of us have heard of the ventral vagal, which is the parasympathetic in kind of basic terms. And then we have shutdown, okay, which is the dorsal vagal. And you may or may not be seeing these symptomologies with yourself and with those who you work with. So here's a list. It's not everything, because it was a lot of letters for me to put onto a slide, but generally this is the typical kind of presentations that we will see. So when we're feeling safety, when we're feeling socially connected, when we're feeling in alignment, we tend to be firing from the ventral vagus nerve. And this is tending where we feel calm, centered, grounded, engaged, open, relaxed, warm, joy, curiosity, compassion, confidence, the ability to problem solve, be creative and support your own nervous system regulation. And that's where we want our clients to be when we're supporting them in achieving their goals. And it's where we want to be when we're supporting people in achieving their goals. However, we will, and we have all experienced, and you will see this in your clients, fight or flight. Okay, it's the most common one that people talk about, fight or flight system, you know. And this is where the body is getting activated. It's where it is getting very fast. And it's where people can feel defensive, overreactive, overwhelmed, frustrated. It might be where they're going to fight to make the goal happen, or they literally run away from it. It's where maybe they're feeling tension in the body, clenching their jaws. It's where anger, fear, frustration, avoidance, all of these presentations come in a fight or flight response for survival. It's needed. We don't want to get rid of this. It's when it's overactive, and most of the population are living in fight or flight. Most of the population is living in stress. So if we're working more within the general population, then it's appreciating that most of us are living in a fight or flight world. Then you have dorsal shutdown. And dorsal shutdown is that kind of, they're just monotone, the facial expressions are very minimal, movements are slower, they find it harder to move, there's maybe sadness there, despair, procrastination. And it's appreciating your scope of practice. Where can you work within the nervous system, and where do you step outside your scope of practice and maybe need to look at other practitioners to support people, especially if they're in this kind of dorsal shutdown state. Okay. So imagine someone is in regular fight or flight or regular shutdown, and we can go between the two. Okay. Or you might go between ventral vagus and then down to fight to flight. Or you can even jump through all three. No one's always in the exact state all of the time. But just have a think and put in the chat if you want to. Think about yourself, or think about those who you've supported on a coaching capacity. What were the symptoms you've recognized that kind of indicate somebody's in fight or flight, or you're in fight or flight? And what might be the impact on those goals that they set themselves? So an example of that, when I go into a stress response, I go into fight and flight. Okay. And if I'm starting to feel stressed and it feels like I'm losing control, then I will start to take control of the environment. So maybe I won't accept help, for example. Or if somebody offers help, maybe I'll become a bit defensive. Maybe I'll take somebody's words and make it mean something that they didn't mean it to be. Yeah. So just have a think. And like I say, you can put it in the chat. What might be those symptoms of fight or flight that either you've seen in yourself, you've seen in others, and the impact that's having on the goals? I'll do it all myself. That's my mantra. Do it me, myself, and I. Don't need anybody else. I go into fight mode. Something else I would have done as well is certain kind of situations that have felt too painful is I've boxed them. Not now, but that will have been something I will have done. I would have put them in a box. I ain't got time to deal with that. Not got time to deal with that. How is that affecting my goals? When I'm in fight flight, I start rushing unnecessary and worrying. So rushing around, all the worrying. Yeah. And helping people to reach their goals. Thank you, Natalia. Ian, avoidance, excuses. Yeah, validating the beliefs. Absolutely. Okay. So what challenges do you face when coaching others? Do you see any of these behaviors? Do you see any of these presentations? I can see it a lot in terms of, so like if you think about the typical coaching, you have a session with somebody, they put together an action plan and they're going to do the things in between the sessions. And then they'll come back to the session and you'll say, how did you get on with those things that you'd agreed to do? And they haven't done them. Yeah. That's quite common. And this is where maybe looking at things from a nervous system polyvagal lens is appreciating what's really going on here. They set these goals, they're all hyped up, they're all motivated in the session, and then they go away and it's not done. And they come back. For what purpose, for what reason? What is really underneath? What is the real obstacles here? Because they'll say things like, and I've done it, I didn't have the time. Something else took over. Got really busy. Yeah. I felt really tired. I ended up with a cold. Okay. And they're all plausible, absolute truths in somebody's reality, because we will make a reality to suit our nervous system. So time will be taken away from us if we really, nervous system is saying, I really don't want to do this. Okay. So it'll look a little bit like this, and you guys might have other ideas and other, this isn't the list, this is just a small list, but this is where self-sabotaging shows itself. This is where maybe you're looking at working with the client on a more nervous system somatic level rather than pure mindset, because they keep procrastinating. There is a regular, consistent negative self-talk taking place. It's not quite getting done because it's not perfect enough. They don't want to do it because actually it's easier to stay where they are than actually fail. Or they might be coming and telling you how other people are doing it better than them, how other people are going faster than them, how other people, they're comparing themselves. When you start to hear these words and see these behaviors with your clients, and it's happening on a regular basis, then we know that the nervous system isn't ready for the goals that they're setting themselves. So it's important to start to work on that nervous system. So goal setting is more than planning. Our autonomic nervous system state affects motivation and focus, and therefore has to be factored into coaching. And the polyvagal theory helps us to understand how nervous system states shape our approach to goals. Okay. So this is a typical kind of, you all know this chart? Yeah? Comfort zone, good old comfort zone. Most of us will be aware of this in the coaching world. So a typical ventral vagal state, which is where somebody's at their optimal and their nervous system is in alignment with the goals they're setting themselves, will trigger off e-stress. So it'll trigger off the hormones that are supportive to goal attainment. We're more likely to get more effective results. The client's more likely to get more effective results. And what happens is they come to you and they're starting to step outside their comfort zone. So like, I really want to achieve this, but I want some accountability. I want some support. I want some guidance as I go down this path. So they come to us as for coaching. And they start to step outside their comfort zone, and they will have this blanket called a set point. And the blanket is this like buffer of how far they can step outside their comfort zone before they move into the fear zone. However, within the fear zone, they have enough internal resources to manage the temporary stress they're going to experience. So they have the internal resources and they have the window of tolerance. They have the buffer to support themselves as they move through the fear zone. And then from there, we go into the learning zone. We start to take on the new reality, the new way of being, and we're in the growth zone. Okay, that's how this works. But what happens when we start stepping outside of our comfort zone and the stress is too much, that somebody hasn't got the internal resources, or their window of tolerance isn't buffered enough, or they have what I call open stress loops that are being fired off? This is when we start to see trouble in our coaching clients. This is when we start to see trouble in ourselves. Is this making sense so far, guys? Yeah? Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So achieving goals has generally been viewed as mindset work, cognitive reframing, willpower, behavior change, the top of the iceberg. Yeah, what about all the unconscious stuff underneath the iceberg? So to help oneself step outside their comfort zone, okay, that's what it is. We are working on a mindset level to support somebody to step outside their comfort zone. However, if the nervous system, if the emotional body feels unsafe in stepping in outside of its comfort zone, then the mindset work won't make a difference. Might temporarily, but we'll keep going back to old ways of being because it's safer there. And this is because the mind is saying one thing, but the body's saying the opposite. The mind's going, yes, go for it. And the body's going, not a chance, no. Okay. If there is fear in the nervous system, if there is fear in our cellular memories, if there are memories in our body that are associated to fear, to anger, to grief, then there is a disconnect between the mind and the body. And this is where self-sabotaging behaviors come in. And we can't outmind that. When we feel safe and socially connected to move forward with our goals, the ventral vagal system is active, and that's going to help us achieve our goals. And it's because with the ventral vagal being fired off, we're feeling focused, motivated, we've got a positive expectation, we generally feel good, our vibration is higher in emotions, mindset is more positive, and we're looking for the forward action movements. However, if we feel unsafe in moving forward in those goals, then the sympathetic and the dorsal will be fired off. And this hinders the goal attainment, because we start to feel more unfocused, more demotivated. There is more of a negative expectation. And these are there just to keep the body safe. The mind is there to keep the body safe. The mind is there to preserve the body, keep the body alive. So it will do what it can to stop you from moving forwards because it thinks it's in danger. And this is what happens. We can get locked when you've got the comfort zone, you're stepping outside your comfort zone, you're starting to create a new reality, you have a coach you're working with, and you start to feel uncomfortable and you're in the fear zone. What can happen in that fear zone for some people is they haven't got the internal resources. Their window of tolerance isn't buffered enough. So they have a small window of tolerance in terms of feeling stress. And they might have open stress loops. Now, open stress loops in terms of, if I think about my trauma training, that I have a trauma diploma, an open stress loop basically is when we all experience stress, we're meant to experience the fight or flight. We're meant to experience that. We might have to experience freeze in the moment as well. And then what happens is the nervous system comes back down and it goes back into parasympathetic nervous system. So the body starts to release those hormones, those chemicals, and then it goes back into homeostasis. That's the full stress cycle. Most people haven't closed up that cycle. And most people haven't closed that cycle on a number of occasions, which means the stress loop is still open. So any new stress that comes in just fires off these open stress loops, and it makes it, a lot of the past stress starts being intertwined and complicated into current stress when someone's stepping outside their comfort zone and they've gone into fear, into the fear zone. So this impairs results because we're in a de-stress state, we're distressed, and we get locked in there. So when somebody's locked in fear, it requires more than a mindset approach. It requires more of a somatic approach to unlock the energy. So the stress loop closes and they move back up to the ventral vagal. Okay. So when stepping beyond our comfort zone, for some people, unresolved stress patterns and deeply ingrained emotional responses such as fear, anger, and grief, and any emotions that come off those three, can unconsciously create resistance and cause self-sabotage. To move forward with this, it's about recognizing and regulating these stress patterns so that we can transform them into opportunities for growth rather than they become obstacles. And again, a lot of people will have, especially when they're in this cycle, that it might get complicated with guilt and shame. Because I should be able to do this. What's stopping me? So people can start to get frustrated at themselves as well. And I've also seen it where coaches have got frustrated by presentation too. It doesn't matter what goals are set or how somebody understands things intellectually. Your mindset, your nervous system, and your set point where your nervous system feels warm and comfortable, they're all there to keep you safe. And if somebody doesn't feel safe in the goals that they're pursuing, because it's firing off fear, then people aren't going to move forward with those goals. And this is quite common. So to move forward and achieve goals, it's important as a coach to first of all create what I call a safe coaching environment. So the environment has to feel safe with you in order for that nervous system to begin to relax. And for some people, they may feel safe straight away and we go faster. And for some people, actually, those first few sessions might just be relationship building, might just be working on a nervous system level to allow somebody to settle into the change they're about to embark on with you, so that they feel safe in environment, they feel safe in the relationship, and they then start to feel safe in the body. So how might a coach create a sense of safety within a coaching relationship? That's a question for you guys. And we all should know this one, okay? We're all trained in coaching. It should have been standard in our training. One of the things we advocate in our training program is to begin sessions with a simple breathing exercise. So all of our coaching sessions, and it's what we teach our coaching clients, is just take a breath with the client, invite them to close their eyes, lower their gaze. Let's just settle into the here and now, calming the coach's nervous system as well as the client's nervous system. The more you do that with somebody, they take it away with them. And I've had so many times a client say to me, oh, I felt this stress. And I thought to myself, what would Lisa do here? Lisa would take a breath. And then they take a breath in the moment away from the sessions. They recalibrate their nervous system so that they can think again and action from that spot. So how might a coach create a sense of safety within a coaching relationship? You've got transparency, turning up on time, yeah, leading the way, authenticity, honesty, holding the space, gentle challenging. Yeah, the breath. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So practical strategies. It's about the relationship above anything. Without a therapeutic relationship, then we set an environment of it not happening. And I always talk in our training when we're talking about relationship building and rapport. If you've seen Inside Out, you'll know this scene. If you haven't, please just bear with me, but I'm sure you'll get the metaphor. Metaphors are brilliant to explain things. So there's a scene where Bing Bong, where the cat goes off to the dump and Bing Bong starts crying. And Joy tries to make it all better. She tries to fix it. Come on, it's fine. It's okay. Let's smile. And she doesn't meet him where he's at. She's trying to fix him. She's trying to make him better. And Sadness sits next to him. And she meets his sadness exactly where he's at. And she allows him to explore his world and cry. And then suddenly he goes, oh, I feel better now. Let's go. And they go on the journey again. So trust and relationship is paramount. And it's the subtleties that we do as coaches that make the difference. And that's where our core capabilities come from. So with this being World Accreditation Day, the importance of working with a coach who is trained and who works within a scope of practice, who goes through regular CPD and works within their core capabilities, right from trust, right the way through to action planning and accountability. And they know them, they know the capabilities, and they are constantly reflecting on what went well, what didn't go so well, and they're actually engaging in their own professional development when coaching is what actually supports people achieving goals. Then you have in actual sessions, taking people through breathing exercises, teaching people about mindfulness and meditation, of how they can take control of their nervous system is key as well. So as a CPD level, beginning to learn more about breathing exercises, mindfulness, meditation, so that you can share them as psychoeducation or begin to practice them with clients. That's where, and again, somatic practices, body awareness comes in. The celebration of small wins, okay? Asking, you know, having that, one of the core capabilities is about challenging. Yeah, and it's having that confidence as a coach to challenge what's really going on here. You have this goal, you want to go from A to B. And over the last few sessions, what we've identified is you're struggling with this away from the calls. What's happening in between these sessions? Yeah, and validate that experience. That's where co-regulation comes in. Okay. So now this for me is key. The more attuned your nervous system is as a coach, the better space you can hold for your clients. So it is, for me, it is paramount that as a coach, we engage in regular nervous system regulation activities so that we are attuning our own nervous system, so that we stop that kind of projection out when we're working with people. And what can happen as coaches, especially when we're newer in the game, is what I call the danger zone. And I've done it. You know, I was a new coach at some point. I was a new nurse at some point when I was nursing. And these actually can unintentionally activate somebody else's nervous system into fight, flight, or freeze. Because as a coach, we're worrying about getting it right. Because as a coach, we're worrying about what we're going to say next. Because as a coach, we're worrying about what question we're going to ask. Because as a coach, we're worrying about how am I going to fix their problem. As a coach, we're attached to the outcome. And we feel triggered. We begin to feel nervous system reaction because we're worrying. We've taken ourselves outside of presence and we're in our head. Okay. Because that once a coach steps outside of their own nervous system attunement, then it starts to, like you said earlier on, Eleanor, you know, we go into the head, don't we? Not about your coaching, but you know, when you're feeling stressed, you go into the head and you go busy. Yeah. So when we have this need to fix our clients, when we have this need to solve problems, when we have a need to get it right in our coaching world, then we are activating our own stress response. And it takes us out of ventral vagus, which means we're less present, we're less feeling. When we don't feel safe within ourselves, then the energy can be kind of transmuted onto the clients. They can feel that they don't feel safe either. And that's where the stress comes in. Okay. So working with nervous systems, it's about supporting goal attainment through nervous system regulation, whilst also working on the cognitive mindset work. And this is where we create a more conducive environment for better outcomes. It's not needed for everybody we work with. Some people will come to us and they don't need the nervous system work. They're in the cognitive mindset, they're in the e-stress, they're in the ventral vagus, and they just need us to hold that space and support them moving forward. But the more the general population are availing of coaching, the more understanding of nervous system regulation is required. It's about empowering others to make decisions and then take strategic actions that aligns with the goals. And it might require us to take a deviation and work on more of a nervous system level before we go fully into cognitive mindset goal setting work. When we take that approach, what we're actually doing as a coach is we are building somebody's comfort zone bandwidth. And the bigger their bandwidth stretches, so the bigger their internal systems, that the more that they can support their own nervous system regulation, the bigger their window of tolerance, the less likely they get stuck in the fear zone, and the more like kind of move through the fear zone, into the learning zone, into the growth zone, and achieve their goals. So a coach who understands nervous system work can come in to support somebody in that stepping outside a comfort zone state, so that it's just a transition rather than seeing clients getting stuck in that fear zone. Okay. I'll stop share. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Um, you said body wants, mind wants, and body doesn't want. Yes? Okay. And you start procrastinating the thing. If your body wants, body doesn't want, but mind wants. But isn't that, and you said this is nervous system. The nervous system is playing the role of this mind and body. When you say a body, is that the subconscious going to a subconscious that's unconscious doesn't balance together? It's like, is it like NLP? Is it like parallel to NLP? If you know, I'm sure you know. Is that it, or can you just define
Yes.
it for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an NLP practitioner, and I'm also a breathwork practitioner, and I combine the two together. So with NLP, we're talking about events. We're talking about the meta programming, which is in the unconscious. It's the thing that runs the way that we view the world. It's the things that runs how we take the information in. It's the meanings we place on things, which then activates the physiological response and then the behavior. And that's there as a system because the mind is there to preserve the body on an NLP level. Where somatic work comes in, it's understanding it beyond that level. So as humans, we're not born with thought. Humans are born into energy. We're created through energy, we're born energetically, and we're born into our emotional realm. So as a child, we interpret the world through our senses and our emotions. The child isn't thinking about it. They are experiencing and they are feeling. It's an emotional reality. The mind begins to play from the ages of 7 onwards. So within the unconscious, we don't just have memories in terms of thought, we also have energetic emotional memories. And sometimes we might never have a memory come up to understand why we feel a certain way, because actually that feeling began before the thinking mind began in the child, when they were still in that emotional reality of their evolution, if that makes sense. So on a nervous system level, you work, it's like a 2-prong. So you're working with the unconscious, exactly that. And you're also working on the emotions, the emotional imprinting, the energetic imprinting that's within the nervous system. And it's the two combined.
Exactly, because I'm also an NLP practitioner. But then again, when you say NLP, that the subconscious, as you say, 7, the subconscious is a 7-year-old, a 7-year-old. So what are we going to heal here? Is the nervous system or the subconscious? Or are we going to work together?
Together. Yeah.
Okay.
The one will influence the other and vice versa. So within the nervous system or within the unconscious, there will be memories associated to fear, grief, sadness, the 3 main ones. So whichever path we go down, whether it be NLP, whether it be like the emotional work, like the breath work that I do, what we're looking at is clearing the energetic imprint that is associated with the fear, the grief, or the sadness, which is stopping somebody in the here and now achieving the goals they want to achieve.
Okay, this is the one point. But the second point, you can work as nervous system. But how about timeline therapy? Can't you work with timeline therapy, healing that? Or you're gonna take the long way, which is nervous system? Because timeline therapy is a much more quicker way of dealing with this. Or you mix them. You do the timeline therapy then, or before you do nervous system healing. because there's a breathing and this is a long procedure, while as timeline therapy is like much more condensed and quicker way. I don't know, or you work with both of them?
Yeah, no, I do timeline as well. It's about the person's bandwidth of stress. So I'm thinking of a particular lady who I worked with, and before I could do timeline work with her, before I could do parts integration, before I could work in terms of single belief changes, her nervous system was so wired in the stress response that it felt too stressful for her, even going through timeline work parts. So I had to softly work with her nervous system and build her bandwidth of coping with those uncomfortable sensations over a period of time before then I could go into timeline. What happened then is I went into timeline, parts work, single belief work with her, and then it shifted very quickly. But there was a whole, I suppose, a few months' work of just allowing her to pendulate and titrate into feeling those uncomfortable emotions before she was ready for timeline work. So I think it's more about what the client needs, and us as coaches being able to intuitively look at a client, the whole being of who they are, and what do they need right now in order to support them achieving those goals. And if they're ready for timeline work, absolutely. Is the nervous system, is their ability to cope with any uncomfortable memories that come up? Do they have the emotional buffer around themselves to cope with it? And if not, then maybe we need to take a different approach before we go in that door. Does that make sense how I explained it?
Yeah, you are mixing it. You're making much more. It very much sense. Yes. And one more. Thank you so much. By the way.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it has to be mixed. And one question, you're saying the word somatic. Is that has to also you include logotherapy inside, for example, for a certain kind of people or certain kind of situations, or do you mix that also, or these three works together, all of them?
Yeah, it's like a big bag of sweets.
It
we
seems
take
because you
the
have to
sweets
put it
that
all
work. Yeah.
and the word noetic and somatic, this is also important for putting, because this words of for a human being to get into this all of the, because they are emotions and they are in their past and they don't know, and you have to probably, as you said, pack of sweets to
Which
give
sweets are going to work? Yeah, absolutely.
True.
Thank you. Brilliant
Thank
questions. Thank you, because I think that really brought it to life. So thank you for your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. With somatic work, it's understanding, you know, when someone's in fight, what's the kind of somatic work that would be supportive there? When somebody's into flight, what would be the appropriate somatic work there? And when someone's gone into dorsal shutdown, what's the appropriate? Because again, and as a mindful meditation teacher, and I've had it with a lot of clients in the past, if somebody is so kind of activated, fight or flighty, or they have really gone into dorsal shutdown, a 30-minute meditation could actually be activating for them. Whereas a kind of low-level fight or flight, meditation is perfect to bring them into a state of homeostasis, the parasympathetic. So it's a coach understanding not just meditation, not just mindfulness, not just shaking, not just breath work. It's where do they apply and where are they appropriate as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Lisa, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may. My question is more of a practical one. You might be aware that typically the starter coaches are guided towards offering between 5 to 10 coaching sessions as a package to their coaching clients. And I understand it is how you position it with the client originally. You have the introduction call in order to get to know the client and what they're currently facing and what they want to work on. But very often, I'm sure you've seen that. Very often, if not in more than 90% of the cases, we end up working on something else.
Yeah.
Which needs to be resolved first in order for the original intention to take place if the client eventually wants to continue down that path.
Yeah.
So my question is, and we can take me as an example. Let's imagine that I have offered a session of 5, a packet of 5 sessions to my client. What would be a very gracious way to explain to the client the fact that additional sessions are needed? And I know we ideally would like to be in a place where the client is not questioning, right? But there are people that are on a budget, right? We have some material constraints. But how would you approach this?
Great question. When I first started in coaching, I started with a 6-session package. And what became very apparent to me in the first year was none of those clients had 6 sessions. They all had more. They all reinvested for more. So that gave me a tangible appreciation that a 6-session package for the work I do isn't enough. So that I changed my package. That was one thing I brought in, was I changed my package. I made them minimum 12 sessions, and I extended the payment plan so that financially, like you said, it was still digestible. Within all my sessions, when I first start with somebody on the onboarding call, I will say, although this package is a 12-session package, until we begin to work together, we won't know what's really stopping you going from where you are to where you want to be. And my first kind of 2 or 3 sessions are exploring the middle bit, the what's getting in the way. Please know that although this is a 12-session package, it may be towards the end of it, we may need to buffer and add some more in, and that will be discussed. And I usually discuss that around the 10th session with them. We'll come into the 10th. This is our 10th session. I just want to check in terms of that goal that you had. Where are you at with it? We've got 2 more sessions left. Are we looking at extending this coaching package, or do you think we've kind of come to an end? So I'm always very transparent. The contracting's done at the beginning, halfway through, towards the end. If I start to work with them and suddenly the goal that they came to me with isn't the goal that they want to work on, then it's recontracting. It's that transparency. And more than anything, it's working on your own nervous system around it. What are the thoughts, the beliefs, and the emotions that are coming up for you when you're thinking about your 5-session package, your 10-session package, and I suppose, a little bit of kind of uncomfortableness that comes with going straight for 10 sessions. And it's that work on self, that what is going on for me as a coach here. Yeah.
Thank you very much for responding.
Pleasure. I hope that helped. It is just the core capabilities, the transparency, the contracting, the open dialogue. If things are changing, having that humility to have that conversation and letting them know from the beginning, although that it's so many sessions, we don't know what we're working with until we begin to work together. So please know we may be looking at another package, which will be a further investment. Yeah. When it's so people need to hear something so many times. So it can be in your contract, written contract that they sign. It can be verbalized on your first call with them. And it can also be emailed across. So those 3 channels of communication saying the same thing, when you then have a conversation on continuing with you, they're like, oh yeah, I remember her saying this. So it supports your nervous system, it supports theirs.
This is very helpful. Thank you so much once more.
Pleasure. I just want to share, I do, because I have further training on these, that I think Raya actually sent out the other week an email, but just so you're aware, for anyone who's either live or on replay, our company Becoming 360, we do a training. It's a 2-day live training. It's trauma-informed coaching. It doesn't make you skilled to work with trauma. That's a much more intensive training that would require a specific skill set, but it gives you an understanding of trauma. It gives you an understanding of the polyvagal theory and how to apply these practically within a coaching environment so that you become a trauma-informed coach. And then there's also mindful meditation for coaching, where we teach you again about the nervous system. We teach you about stress management, about mindfulness, meditation tools that you can then bring into practice with the people who you work with. So I have the links, actually, I'll put the links in the chat. I will get Raya to email these out as well. If anyone is interested in these trainings, these are the next 2 dates, and there is a huge saving for IAPC&M members. So you're very welcome to avail of them. If not with us, if you feel like this is something that is going to benefit your practice in terms of CPD, if not with us, with somebody else, you know, get these in your toolbox. They really do help your practice.
This is great, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
We have, yeah, please share. Just wanted to mention that we have a couple more minutes left for any last minute questions.
A really easy question that's quick for me to answer, although I do like to talk, so I don't always answer quickly, because as I start talking, the downloads come in. You can contact me on email, lisa@lisamcmurtry.com. If you have any questions that maybe you want to ask away from a live session, you're very welcome to email me with any questions. It's really, from today, it's an appreciation that whoever we're working with, it is about them achieving goals, and it's understanding that a lot of the sabotaging behaviors, a lot of the reasons why clients struggle with that goal attainment, even when working with a coach, is because of the unconscious mind, because of the nervous system. And it's the more we understand it, the more space we can hold as somebody works through their own process. Okay.
This is a very useful takeaway. Thank you so much, Lisa. And
thank you.
Everybody enjoy the rest of your days. Please feel free to join the remaining 3 masterclasses we have for the remaining of the day. Next one is at 1:30 British Summer Time. I will be also hosting that, so I look forward to seeing your lovely faces there then.